technically live, but it always takes YouTube a few seconds to send out alerts. So we're gonna look at ourselves now on the screen here, so we can read the audience's questions.
Sure.
Because they're gonna have questions for us. So let me log in here. All right, this is us. All right, so right now we only have one watching, but you're gonna see this number start to uh, raise up here. How's my internet?
So they had already had notice that we were going to do.
Well, right now YouTube's sending out alert. Oh yeah, they've already had notice too.
So they had already had
Oh,
notice.
let's mute this. Well, right now. All right, cool. So right now, look how the numbers are starting to go up. You know what I'm saying? So right now we got that. Now what'll happen also is we're gonna get chat. So you'll start seeing people with questions and stuff, right? So it's safe to say that at this point, we are live! Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Business Talk. I'm your host with the most, Brother B, and you can be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me. Thank you for being part of YouTube's Off the Clock Appliance Repair Talk for Off the Clock Appliance Repair Text. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I'd like to welcome a special, dignified guest. I mean, we have royalty in the building. This man has more years doing this than probably I've been alive. But before we introduce this fine scholar, we are going to get some news real quick out the way. Ladies and gentlemen, in case you don't know, tonight's episode is exclusive material that would only be shared with our academic alumni. But due to the fact that we trying to recruit more people and bring more people aboard, we made tonight's show open to the public and open to the audience. So we hope you enjoy it. Ladies and gentlemen, I have Mr. Art Bailey with me tonight. We're going to talk to him here in a few. Also, don't forget, Brother Rick and I's project, the LG How to Replace the Linear Compressor, step by step. That project, we are currently working on that. And again, ladies and gentlemen, please leave your information, questions that you have for Mr. Bailey. And is it okay if we call you Art or Mr.
Art's
Bailey?
fine.
Art, if you got any questions for my good friend Art here, go ahead and leave them in the comment section. With all that out the way, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to tonight's host. You know, one day I'm working on a job, right? And I get a call. And the call is something along the lines of, hey, how you doing? I got a GE dishwasher. Now, this particular dishwasher, I wanted to go ahead and make an attempt at repairing it. And I think you said you did one or two things, but it didn't pan out, right? I believe so. Something along the lines. Do I got the right guys, or am I completely?
No, you're
Okay,
you're
I'm
close.
on track. All right.
You're close.
Ah,
I think it was a G.
All right, cool. So I go to this gentleman's house, and right away I strike up a conversation with him. Beautiful house and stuff. And I say to him, "Well, sir, tell me a little about yourself." And he says, "I do HR." I said, "Really? I do appliance repair, and I also do YouTube." And I was like, "Tell me about yourself." And when this gentleman here began talking, I said, "Sir, let me stop you. I got to bring you on the show." He wanted to tell me more, and I kept telling him, "Sir, be quiet. I don't want to hear it. I want to have natural reactions." So enough of me talking tonight. I'm going to open up the floor to you and my guest, Mr. Art Bailey from, what's the website?
TrustHouseHR.com.
TrustHouseHR.com.
That's our website.
That's our website. Mr. Bailey, go ahead, introduce yourself, Art.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, folks, with Brandon. It's a new relationship we've just created recently with the GE dishwasher in our house that stopped working. And it took us a while to get the part in, but we got it fixed, and my wife is very happy now.
Thank you.
She doesn't have to do dishes, and she hasn't dragged me into doing dishes either, which is just fine. I don't mind doing that. But it's fixed. And Brandon, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
thank
that.
you.
I've been in the human resource business for a long time. I've owned 2 companies. I have been the senior HR executive in 3 other companies. So that's a long time I've been doing this. I have an advanced degree in HR from Nova University. I'm a senior certified HR professional. I even do subject matter expert for HR issues in lawsuits. So I find myself, around places. I'm generally considered someone who knows a little bit about it. Not an attorney, but I'm real close. I'm not trying to be an attorney, but I've been in the business a long time. So, and I've spent a lot of time with small businesses, and it just became part of our conversation that maybe there's something we can do to help all of you, whether you have 2 or 3 or 30 employees, doesn't matter. There are employment laws that that you have to comply with. You have to have policies in place. You need handbooks. You need documents when you hire somebody, and then you need make questions about whether someone's a contractor, subcontractor, or employee. And there's rules, and we can go over all that. Any of the stuff that that and a million other things that we can talk about. I'd be very happy to share with this, and then we'll see how it goes.
All right, I want to talk to you about who you're talking to tonight.
Okay.
My network is a appliance repair technician network. You're not talking to the do-it-yourselfer. You're talking to the actual technicians. And the majority of my base or my platform is business owners. There's guys with one truck, that starting up.
Sure.
They want to expand.
Of course.
All the way up to multi-tech organizations. 7 to 12, whatever.
Right.
And everything in between. You even have some guys that have multi-branches.
Sure.
So you're speaking to a large audience tonight. And again, all appliance repair technicians. We go into customers' homes, we hire technicians, we fire technicians, and we want to make sure that we do things the proper way. I'll be honest with you, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I don't have a degree like you in your field, but I am an entrepreneur, and I am seeking to do things by the book and
Sure.
professional.
Sure.
So can we start at the very beginning? Or
Okay.
What, as a HR consultant, one of one of the services that you offer is human resource strategies and practices. Would that be a good starting point for business?
Maybe from small business perspective, you can't hire a bunch of people. You can only hire what you need to do the work that you have. So you need to figure out what that is, what that means, and you need to have an understanding of what you want to do with your business and the kind of people you need to hire. When you decide you need to hire people, you need to not just look for a warm body, but you need to decide what it is you're trying to do with your company. Is there a specific a type of appliance or a specific part of the market that you really want to chase? Then you have to decide, do you have the expertise to do that? If you don't, are you going to hire that, or are you going to farm that out to another contractor that can do that work kind of as a sub? Or are you going to want to have that work done inside your company? So you either have to hire somebody who can actually do that and has the capacity to do that and do that well professionally, or are you going to hire somebody or use someone that you already have and put them through enough training so that they have the capacity to do that? The immediate problem with trying to train someone yourself is it's going to take a while. You're not going to be able to just move in and say, okay, I'm prepared to get into this market, but I have this guy over here that's really good, but he doesn't know anything about that. We don't, so we've got to go to school. We've got to figure out what it is technically this thing is about and how to fix it. That's going to take a while. That could take 3 months, 6 months, a year. Depends on the capacity of that individual and how quickly they can learn, and how you all can learn about that segment of the population.
Okay.
Of those kinds of appliances or instruments that need to be repaired that you want to do.
can I ask you about the personnel though? We start doing appliances. We build a reputation for ourselves as one-man operators.
Sure.
And even then, we should have policies and some of those things that you suggested, like handbooks, which we can talk about. But now we're getting more calls. We're getting overworked. Our performance is slipping. We can't juggle everything, so we decide we want to hire. And without, putting the horse in front of the carriage here, I don't want to start talking about hiring subs and the proper law work that's involved with that. But what's your recommendation from the beginning? From the time the guy or gal gets his license in the mail, gets his business insurance, and puts his website out, and he says, okay, I'm a business. Right. What would be the first thing that you would tell that brother or sister?
Assuming that all of the legal paperwork and insurances and stuff is in place, and then you're overwhelmed by it. At that point, it depends on whether you need just a helper, someone who can just get all the stuff and run for the tools and run for the parts, and help you do that. If you need to be in multiple places at the same time, then obviously you need someone who is skilled enough that you can trust to go over the other place. One of the things I talk about a lot with companies, all kinds of companies, is what is your culture of your organization? What do you want it to be? How do you want, when you go and talk with a customer, how do you want them to think about you? How do you want them to get confidence in you so that they'll actually use you and come back to you? Well, that's personality, that's approach, that's being professional, whatever, professional could be a lot of different things. But certainly you have the right answers, you have the right tools, you know exactly, like you did in with our dishwasher. You went right to the source of the problem. We went through steps. I did a few of those, made sure that we had power to the dishwasher. Then you kind of doubled that, and then you went immediately to the board, and the board was the problem. We had lost our electric power to our house, and FPL had to reroute temporarily other power lines to the house, and when they did, there was a surge when they turned it back on, and apparently it damaged the circuit board on the dishwasher, and we replaced it, and it's working fine ever since. So the way this young man came into our home, he was very respectful, very careful. He treated us amazingly friendly, in a friendly sense that made it very easy for me to trust him in my home. That happened immediately. And it was because of his personality, because of how he approached the work. He was careful with his tools around the kitchen. He even mentioned that he didn't want to pull the dishwasher out because we have wood floors, oak wood floors, and he didn't want to damage the floor. Little things like that make a huge difference. That's part of what being a professional is. Not only do you have the right tools and you know how to use the right tools, but what's the environment about? And how you want someone who you hire and bring in to be able to do the same thing and act the same way. And have the same respect for the tools and for the house and for the people that you're dealing with. So it's really important. Later on we'll talk about a handbook. Let's talk about first about the skill sets again. The ability to do the work, knowing how to use the tools and having knowledge of the equipment, is only about 40% of the, from my perspective, I've been in the HR business for a long time. This is just anecdotal experience that I've had, but I've talked, I've interviewed, I've been part of very large organizations. The largest organization, I guess, had 20,000 employees. So, I know the issue of culture. Only about 40% of the value of an employee is what they can physically do. Their use of tools, their knowledge of the equipment, and how to fix it. The rest of it is, do they fit the kind of person that you want representing you when they're in someone else's house and you're not there with them? I'm telling you, that's more important than whether they can fix anything. they obviously have to be able to fix it. But if you can't trust them, that they're going to represent you the way you want to be represented, the way you do your work, then you need to second guess about that person. Just finding a warm body isn't the way to build your business. Finding the right person is more important. It may take you longer to find that person. You may struggle a little bit more with maybe a little bit overwork. But you need to make that, I can't tell you how important that is.
Let's take the time, Mr. Bailey. We got a couple people that are happy about tonight's show.
Cool.
So let's shout them out. Let's take this time to say big shout out to Trinity Appliance TV, Charged Up Services, Mike Charles, my business partner Richard Zilka, Black 12, Greg B, Ada Bell Santana, Ryan, Do It Yourself, and Lieutenant Lawson. I'd like to thank you guys for your tapping in. If y'all have any business, human resource questions tonight, please take advantage of tonight's guest, Mr. Bailey. I'd like to move the subject now to, like you were saying, culture. Let's follow this. Let's follow this technician's involvement to a multi-truck organization. Mm-hmm. So let's start him with, like you said, he himself. He or she sets the precedence of the company, that quote-unquote culture that you spoke about. Now you're talking about bringing on an individual, whether, like you said, to put in the parts, to troubleshoot, whatever, like you said. But let's talk about the hiring aspect of it, the legalities of it, the things that an employee must do by the law, or let us know how to properly go about hiring a qualified candidate or a candidate of some interest. Talk us to the interview, maybe some questions that we can ask. I'm sure you've done a million interviews. You probably wrote the book about it.
I've written a few.
Talk us about the interview part, things to maybe look for, maybe things that we want to shy away from. So then we bring him on board, he or she on board. What kind of like you was telling me about the I-9, I don't want to misquote, forgive my ignorance. I-9?
The I-9 fund.
Yeah, the I,
We'll get into that.
Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Keep our verifying. Before you go out and hire anybody, you need to know what level of skill you need from that person. And I'm telling you, the best way to do that is to write a good job description. You need a list of exactly what that person needs to be able to do. Mm-hmm. And also what they need to have. Do they need a college education? Do they need certain certifications? Do they need certain number of years of experience that you feel is a requirement to be able to fix work at the level that you need? Do you need a helper, or do you need someone who can walk in and be you? Mm-hmm. That's two very different job descriptions. Mm-hmm. The responsibilities, the skill sets are all different. Mm-hmm. So you need to know what it is that you're hiring first. You're not just looking out for another technician who's a warm body who can come and help you. That you'll get some help, but you're not going to build your company that way. I'm telling you, it's really, really important to do job descriptions. Once you do a job description, then when you advertise for it, now you have a document that says, okay, to the world, here's the person we need. And if you don't have that, don't come and talk to us. Don't come and talk to us. And part of that might be, that part of the interview process would be then, how have you worked with customers before? And have a lot of questions with how they interact with customers, the culture side, what you want. But then once you do that and you have someone that you have interviewed, there's a lot of different ways of interviewing. First of all, you need to verify what they put on their resume or they tell you through the email or however you get the information. You need to verify that first. If they tell you they can do something, ask them how to do it. And if you really have an opportunity, have something for them to work on to actually do that. Mm-hmm. Like
a small test.
Yeah.
A technical test.
Sure. If someone says they can type and they have to type, put them in front of a typewriter, see if they can type.
Yeah.
Listen to me, typewriter.
Yeah. You a young
computer keyboard.
Spring chicken, man.
Computer keyboard.
Spring chicken.
So you do that. Then you start asking them questions, what have you done well working with clients? When you've gone out to clients, tell me about some really good experiences you've had. And then tell me about some bad experiences. And then why do you think they were bad experiences? Do you think there's something you could have done different to make that experience a better experience for you and the client?
Yeah.
Start talking scenario things and get them to talk about how they feel. And someone says, I got in a client and all they do is complain. Well, how did you feel about that? What did you do? How did you talk with that client? And let them talk. Don't talk them into the answer, but just let them talk. How did you feel about them harping all the time? Well, I hated it. I just didn't want to be here. I wanted to get out. Or I was really concerned that she really, really had a problem. And so we're talking with her and help her understand that we can help her. Those are two different people.
Yeah.
The second person might be the one you want to hire. The first person probably isn't the person you want to hire. But you'll not know that unless you kind of ask those kind of questions, scenario kinds of questions. Now, once you find somebody that you think meets the technical requirements and also fits who you want working for you, then there's a couple documents, there's a couple things you have to do. Have them fill out an application. You should have applications. You should not take information from somebody without it being in an application. And I'll tell you the reason why. When they fill out an application and you have that on file, that becomes a legal document. That can be used later if you find out they lied on it. Not on a resume, but because everyone stretches the truth on a resume. But if they fill out an application and you find out later that they lie about that, that is grounds for dismissal. That's a legal protection for you to say, you're not who you said you were. And there's a problem now. Now you have to weigh that. If it's a little thing or it's a big thing, the bigger it is, the more likely you need to get away from that person. Number one issue with anybody working for you is trust. You have to be able to trust somebody. You've got to know that when they're talking to you, they're telling you the truth.
Yeah.
You can't get away from that. If someone's devious and they don't want to be straight up with you, that's only going to be problems. They're going to be that way with your clients. They're going to be that way with you. You're going to run into problems, and they could become legal problems. And you don't want that. You just don't need that.
I want to ask you about.
There was two things.
Go ahead.
So you do hire somebody. You have to fill out a form called an I-9 by the Immigration and Naturalization. It's them showing you proof that they can legally work in the United States. Now there's a number of documents that they can produce to demonstrate that. Typically, if it's a U.S. citizen, they have a passport. Passport is sufficient. If they don't have a passport, something like a driver's license and a social security card, any combination. But the I-9 has 2 pages of all the kinds of documents and the combinations that you can use. You have to have that information on file. And then once they fill it out, or you fill it out, they sign it that what they're giving you is valid and real. Then you sign it as well and date it. Make sure you do all that within the first 3 days of employment. Has to be done in the first 3 days. By federal law, you have to do it in the first 3 days. And it also has to be filled out completely, including you or someone representing your company signing that document. If the Labor Department or INS comes in to your company, the first thing they're going to ask for is your I-9s.
Dang.
That's the first document. They want to know you have them, that you have the right documents, and that you've filled the form out correctly. Just not signing a document, excuse me, just not signing that document can be a fine up to $2,000 by the government. So I went into a company 7 months ago, and I looked at their I-9s. They had 40 employees. I found 38 I-9s, so they were missing 2. Not one of them was signed by anybody representing the company, and some of the other documents were missing. The Labor Department or INS could have levied more than $100,000 of fines just from those documents. That's not even to determine whether any of the employees were legally working in the United States.
That's just for lack of having the proper paperwork.
Right. The other thing you have to do.
Where can we find the 99?
Right on, just
I9.com?
yeah, I know. But go to the
Something like
government.
that.
Go to the government version of it.
Yeah.
Don't go to a second party
Yeah.
or third party. Go to the government because you can fill it out right online, or you can print it off and fill it out by hand. Either way.
Okay.
The next thing you have to do in the state of Florida, and it's pretty much in every other state, you need to register that employee with the state. So you can do it electronically in Florida. They have an e-verify. Just go to the state of Florida and go to the e-verify thing. It takes you 30 seconds.
I gotta stop you. You have the pleasure and the honor of not just talking to Floridians, but the international world, if not the galaxy,
Okay.
of all appliance repair technicians.
So Florida is
other states and countries.
Florida is representative of most states. And I would say most states are going to require you to register your new employees with them. The INS, the I-9 form is a federal form. Anywhere in the United States, including Puerto Rico and Guam and Alaska, whatever, you have to fill that form out. Each state has their own way of registering with the state. Some states still do it on paper and you have to send it in. Florida might be ahead of some of the other states where you can do it online, it's real quick, but you have to do it. You have to do both. And they have to be done within the first 3 or 4 days of the employee. The I-9 has to be filled out completely within 3 days of hiring the employee. The other form, I think, maybe 3 or 4 days or a week or whatever, but real soon.
I-9 and what was the other one?
The e-verify.
The e-verify. All must be done within 72 hours of
Yeah, you gotta do it right away. Don't delay.
Go ahead.
The other thing that you should do with an employee is sit down with them and go over your handbook with them. We'll talk about handbooks. You need to have a document that they can have in their hand that tells them what the benefits are, generally what the benefits are, not the details of the benefits, because you give them that separately if you have them. If you don't, you don't. But what your expectations are with discrimination and those kind of legal federal statutes that apply, as well as what you expect them to be and do as an employee. Here's when we get paid, here's how we get paid, here's how we keep track of either time or your book hours, if you use book hours, a lot of contractors do, or you pay them a salary, however you pay them. You should have that in writing so they can read that and go over it with them and they have a copy of that. There's 3 purposes for the handbook. One is to tell the feds and the state regulators that you have policies in place that they say you should have, like discrimination, things like that. Secondly, for your supervisors, if you have multi-level of employees and you have people supervising others, it tells them how to supervise those people. And thirdly, to the employee, what the employee can expect from the company. And most of it's the culture stuff. Again, about 40% of a handbook are the legal issues, like the statutes.
And that's where you contact trusthr.com.
Trusthouse.HR. Or the rest of it. It's really, so we're talking about 2 kinds of in-house documents. The first one is a good job description, and the second is a good handbook. If you have 3 or more employees, virtually all of the federal statutes apply to your organization across the country. And if some states will add more to that, and some states don't add anything more, but the federal and at least the federal statutes apply to everybody everywhere in the country, in this country. So you need those. So if the feds are going to look, they're going to look to see if you have those policies in place. And secondly, that your employees know about it. So you can't just have a handbook, fill it out, and put it on a drawer somewhere. You have to show it to people, have it go through, and have them sign a document that they've received, at least received it.
Yeah.
They don't have to verify that they actually know, because you're not going to give them a test on the contents of it. But talk them through it. Part of an orientation, I'm getting at. You should spend some time with that employee, not bring them in the first day and 2 minutes later introduce them to everybody in the office or whatever and send them out to do a job. They don't know anything about you. They don't know anything about what's expected when they go out there. You need to talk to them about that. Do an orientation. Even if it's a couple hours, it's worth the time.
It's worth its weight in gold.
So they won't go out there and make mistakes that you don't want them to make.
I gotta stop you now. Because you're like a runaway train.
I can keep talking forever.
If I don't stop you, you're just gonna keep
Do it.
going. Alright. So I wanna follow tonight's theme. The
Okay.
guy who started, got his own tech or help or whatever. And you touched on so many things, man, and thank you, for those. Especially job description. I think I'm gonna make a general statement and speak for a lot of people that I know. I'm not speaking for everybody, but I'm speaking for a lot of people that I know.
Mhm.
A lot of us, when we like our field, appliance repair, is such a technical field that to find somebody good is rare, or to find somebody period that comes with some experience is rare. That's good, that is.
Right.
So let's revisit your interview, because this has happened to me in the past. You get a call from a buddy of yours, or your local supply house, whatever, or even the job candidate himself calls you.
Sure.
And says, listen, Art, I'm looking for work, and what can you do with me? And you ask some of those questions, and you start seeing little signs that don't match your culture, but you in a catch-22, because for me, maybe my priorities were backwards. I don't have all the answers. My interviews were more technical oriented.
Sure.
Like, can you fix refrigerators? You know how to change compressors? You do gas? You do microwave? I was more
Sure.
technical specific, trying to match the candidate to what's expected.
Right.
But I learned that I would put. Do you think it's good to put some of the culture to the side if the person is a good match and is a rare find? For example, they fit the position to the T, but maybe have questionable work habits, or should you not use that as a gauge and say if they don't fit the culture, forget if they're